Welcome back to the Balancing Act podcast. I'm Andy Temte. On the Balancing Act, we talk to business leaders and industry experts to explore the balancing acts we play in our professional lives and learn about the events that put rocket boosters behind their career success. Today, we have Elliott Holland joining us. Elliott is the managing partner of Guardian Due Diligence and is an expert in the acquisition of small and medium-sized businesses. He helps first-time business buyers manage through the challenging and nuanced due diligence process. I wanted to have Elliott on the show because when I was at Kaplan, we bought a lot of small mom and pop shops. So and Carl Swayzer and I sold our small business to Kaplan in the late 1990s. So I've been on both sides of small to mid-sized transactions. So definitely wanted to get your expertise, Elliott, and share it with the world. Elliott, before we get started, tell our listeners the elevator pitch version of your story.
Sure. So both my parents were accountants, and I decided to go differently and do engineering for undergrad. I got into small business acquisition after I attended Harvard for business school, where I worked in private equity and was an independent business buyer for a while. I transitioned in 2018 to an advisor, primarily because I saw an uptick in what I call phony gurus saying that no money down deals and deals without diligence and people just coming off the street putting up $1 million deals was okay. And I thought that people needed a real diligence solution because a lot of these loans require personal guarantees. So the recourse is significant. And so I started Guardian Due Diligence to be a guardian in for people who were going to put real money up so they didn't get had in what can be a very complex acquisition process. And then also to expand the scope of the audit product that I sell, which is a quality of earnings. But if you think about, there's probably 2 or 3 key areas of diligence that people need. The accounting piece, which is the audit, the quality of earnings is one. But there's commercial and operational needs. And so we sell the quality of earnings because that's what people are buying. And we deliver a more complete diligence solution to protect people from craziness. And then as an aside and a new thing, we recently started helping first-time buyers get through the full process of acquiring companies through a masterclass. So I have the Guardian business that helps from a financial diligence perspective, and now a masterclass that helps people close their first deal.
That's fantastic. Now, you come from an engineering background, and I'd just like to take a moment to stress to our listeners, we've talked a lot about engineering on the show with various guests, and engineering is just a wonderful discipline that can lead individuals in lots of different directions. You grew up as an engineer, and now you're doing corporate due diligence. So kudos to you. Great job in navigating that transition. Why didn't you stay in engineering?
Because I saw business people who I thought were less capable managing engineers and making more money with less information. And when I saw that happening in internships, I said, that doesn't make sense, that the less intelligent folks managing what I thought were the more intelligent folks. And I thought if I was going to play on one side of that, I'd rather play on the money happy side of that, frankly. I couldn't change the whole system, so at least go on the business side. So
Awesome. So Elliott, that journey from engineer to due diligence, if you had to pick one event in your life that was a key accelerant for your career, what would that event be?
So I got through with a bad deal that didn't work out in 2016 and took a gap year in 2017. I think that's the right phrase to call it. I had to go lay down and lick my wounds. And 2017 going into 2018, I think was the biggest catalyst for my career. It's when I started thinking about things and said, things haven't been perfect for you, but way too gosh darn much to not monetize these skills in a different way. So get smart and figure out how to do it. And so that was the year I transitioned from being a business buyer to an advisor to business buyers. Now, some people would have considered that a downgrade, And there were certainly some difficult conversations with folks. In the deal world, Andrew, as you know, there's a lot of hierarchy and people like asserting their dominance at times. But I saw a path to helping people in a sustainable, scalable way, leveraging skills that I had fought hard and blood and all kinds of crap to get. And I think once I sort of took ownership of the success of my career, understanding the skills were at the core of it, that's when things really started to take off. I hope that makes sense.
Oh, it makes absolute sense. Elliott, let's start with the basics of due diligence. Most of our listeners are not going to know a lot about what due diligence is. Can you give us a primer of what due diligence is?
Yeah, and I speak in layman's terms because I got frustrated as an engineer when these finance terms went over my head. And when I realized they weren't that complicated, it really personally frustrated me. So that's really had some fun. So it's just like going to buy a used car, except it's $1 million or more. So what is due diligence? Due diligence is making sure that the business that you're looking at is indeed what they say it is. They are the seller, they are the broker, or whoever's representing the seller in this case. And just like at the used car lot, you cannot take that car back. The difference is this one is likely $500,000 or $1 million. So the implications of getting it wrong are way more significant. So what does that mean? That means that when you're looking to buy a business, let's say I'm buying Andrew's business. I'm going to send him an offer for here's $1 million to buy your business, Andrew. He's going to say, that's not enough, but Elliott, you're great, so I'll accept that offer today. And then we're going to start due diligence. And he's going to send me a bunch of financial information. But here's the thing. Most small business owners don't overinvest in their accounting. And so what it means is the information that Andrew's sending to me oftentimes is not nefarious, it's just incorrect. And so the first piece of diligence is an audit-like product called a quality of earnings, and that checks the accounting on the information. Now that's boring to a lot of people, but accounting is just a single language that everybody speaks about business, meaning I can speak accounting in the United States, in Japan, in Africa. I can speak it to an operator, to a business person. It's just a language of business. So once we do diligence on the accounting, now we have an accurate story of the business. And then the other pieces that we do that a lot of other folks don't is sort of the operational and the commercial diligence. And let me just break down what those are in layman's terms. Operational, let's just say there's 10 people in Andrew's company. You need to understand what those 10 people do. What of those employees could be replaced easily within 5 or 10 days? Which ones it might take 6 months to a year? You need to be sure that you have a way to keep the people around that are mission critical to the business. And that's the operational diligence. So who's running it? How are they doing it? The continuity of it. The commercial diligence is one of my favorite. There is no business if people don't sell things. So commercial is about sales. So what is the sales and marketing funnel to get people in the front door? And once you understand the accounting, the operational, and the commercial, now you have a comprehensive view on the business based on data that you can trust. It's not that Andrew is necessarily sending bad data. It's that all he had to do is go to the bank and collect the cash that he created. I actually have to understand the cash flows, the trends, and all the rest to take over his baby that he knows intimately well. I'll be learning for the first time. And that's really what diligence is in the simplest terms.
Yeah. Thank you for that. That's a really great description. Now, I like to run thought experiments. So let's suppose that you have a budding entrepreneur sitting in front of you right now who wants to buy an existing business. I think I know the answer to this, but what's the most common mistake that you see first-time business buyers make?
They want to trust people because they don't have a big enough budget to do the diligence work that they need. And so it's easier to trust people. People smile a lot and say nice things. And when you're low on budget and people are smiling at you, and it's maybe the first time you're doing something entrepreneurial, the biggest mistake is thinking you can do it on your own just because people are smiling and saying nice things to you.
Yeah, we fall into that trap quite frequently, don't we, Elliott? Where we take everything at face value, and we don't apply our critical thinking muscles to really get underneath whatever story it is, and ask that all important question: why?
And then in this
Right?
case, I'll double click on it. Most of my clients are brilliant people. So they've been working for 10, 20 years, making a lot of money most times. In their domain of expertise, they are experts. They've earned that. But what they often do is try to ascribe that level of excellence to this brand new thing. Now, their old job had some accounting in it. This accounting is way more crazy, and you had no personal guarantee over here. You do in this land. Oh, they had some operational analysis, but never a small business, never where you were personally making the bet. And so what ends up happening is there's like this false equivalency that smart people have where they're saying, hey, I want to ascribe the excellence that I had in my old thing to this new thing. And they get had. And this is smart people with a lot of assets. It's not just the everyday Joe Blow. It's some of our smartest citizens, really, that are getting had the easiest, frankly, because they're trying to ascribe their old excellence to this new thing.
Right. Excellent. So before we cut to a really quick commercial break, one of my goals with this show is to improve financial literacy and financial acumen. That's one of the other reasons why you're here talking to our guests. So let's dive a little bit deeper into this concept of quality of earnings, or QOE. What does this acronym mean, and why does it matter to both sides of the transaction?
Great. So let's start with earnings. It's the most important word in that quality of earnings piece. So let me break down what earnings are, because it's super simple. It's profit. Now, I could have said cash flow, but if you want to talk about the difference between profit and cash flow, go Google that. That's a little bit more complex than for me to handle it now. But let's just say profit. The other way to talk about it, Andrew, is revenue minus cost. It's the stuff you get to spend.
Yep.
So businesses are valued at a multiple of profit. For small businesses, under $1 million of profit is typically about 3 to 4 times profit, meaning that a $400,000 profit business would likely be valued at $1.2 million, or 3 times that $400,000. Now, when somebody says, hey, Elliott, I have this great business that I'm selling, it's got $400,000 of profit, you need to understand the quality of earnings, quality of product. What does that really mean? And you've heard me use this word before. It's essentially an audit. Now you understand when Coca-Cola gets audited, Home Depot gets audited, it's an intense accounting analysis to make sure the books are solid. This is a miniature version of this meant specifically for people who are buying businesses. So it's time condensed, and it's very focused on profit and or its big cousin cash flow. And so what you do is you check the accounting, so typically QuickBooks, you check the taxes, you check the bank statements, reconcile, make sure everything is the same, and say, hey, this business actually is the $400,000 profit or $1.2 million value business, or things are lower by 20%. So we need to pull back the valuation by 20% to better reflect the actual numbers once they've been cleaned.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, you're trying to minimize the likelihood of buyer's remorse on the other side of the transaction. Hey, I thought this business was making $400,000 a year, and that's what I thought I paid for, but it's really only making $200,000. What the heck happened? And so if you were able to know that in advance, that would be a lot better than finding it out on the back end.
That's it. And you're in an environment where, because businesses are valued at a multiple of profit, it's not that each dollar of profit that's fake is a dollar issue for the buyer. It's a $3 issue for the buyer. And so what that means is even honorable people sitting in the seller's seat have a way higher incentive to lie. I use this analogy a lot. I'm not sure they have a higher motive to lie than almost if like your spouse asked you what you were doing this weekend and you were doing something nefarious. people have a very high reason to lie. And so that's why diligence becomes more important, because it's not dollar for dollar.
Right, right. Well, Elliott, we're going to take a really short commercial break, and we'll be right back. Hey everyone, I'd like to invite you to start your weekend with me on the Saturday Morning Muse podcast. I briefly explore topics that span leadership, business management, education, and personal continuous improvement. Subscribe to the Saturday Morning Muse podcast on your favorite podcast streaming app or visit andrewtemte.com for more information. And we're back with Elliott Holland talking about the world of business acquisitions and due diligence. You know, Elliott, you talk about the fake gurus that are out there that entrap naive entrepreneurs into thinking that buying a business is super easy. And you just have to live on the internet for just a little while. And you see these folks yelling and screaming at you, their head right in the video, telling you that it's all going to be fantastic. What are some of the telltale signs that can help an entrepreneur separate the good guys from the bad guys as they're searching for advisors?
Sure. So if you recognize what you're doing when you buy $1 million business, that's a very hard thing by definition. So let me put it into context. Most of you may have bought a house. Call that $200,000, call that $300,000. So this is 3 to 5 times more expensive than your biggest investment, but probably 10 to 100 times more volatile, because these valuations are based on a multiple of cash flow, and cash flow can fluctuate. So a telltale sign of a fake guru is somebody who underestimates or purposefully tries to misrepresent the ease with which you can do something hard. It's like, hey, you want to go join the NFL? Let me give you this easy way to go join the NFL. Hey, you want to go work for Warren Buffett? Let me give you this easy way to go work for Warren Buffett. These things are not easy.
No.
The other thing that they do that's confusing is they've always bought multiple businesses. So it's always 5 to 20 businesses they bought. But what I'll tell you is people who are running $5 to $20 million businesses don't have time to do anything but manage their portfolio. So that's another telltale sign. The other one I'll say is that if their biggest earning is likely from their class, and you have to sort of double click on that, if that's the only thing they do, then be wary. So for instance, I have a class, but I also have a very large due diligence business. So my class is not the main way I make money. You should check and see if those other people have anything truly operating that makes them money. And frankly, as a result of me having another business, I can't spend 100% of my effort on the class. If somebody's spending 100% of their effort on the class, that's another telltale sign.
Yeah, and the whole thing preys on some of our worst tendencies. And, you know, we see these influencers, we see people kind of in our circles who are at the beach and they've got this quote unquote lifestyle business and they don't have to do a lot of work and the money's just rolling in and eyes get wide. Oh, I want to be just like that. And what you don't see is just how hard it really is. And I love your fake guru label that you put on it, because that is fake. Anything worthwhile is going to be hard. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And for a lot of the buyers, if you think about your $100,000 salary and you're going to 10x that with $1 million business purchase, you should recognize the hazard that's inherently there. You don't 10x anything else in 6 months without turmoil, challenge. It can be done.
Yeah.
But you don't 10x your reps on the bench press. You don't 10x the amount of protein shakes you drink as opposed to big, heavy, carb-loaded meals. You got to recognize you don't 10x easy overnight.
Yeah. So now let's transition into the psychological. I think this is a great segue here. You've got that same hypothetical entrepreneur sitting back in front of you right now. What are some of the psychological traits, the characteristics of successful business buyers, what's the, I saw on your website, you talk about mindset. What's the mindset that a first-time buyer needs to adopt?
So let me start from where they are and then answer your question about where they need to get psychologically. So 95% of my clients, 100% of their earnings last year was from a W-2, from a job.
Yeah.
In a job, what you're supposed to do is everything your boss tells you, whenever your boss tells you, be 100% nice to your boss and other coworkers, and also play your turn in terms of if you have something that's super new and better than what everybody else has, you're probably incented to give it to your boss as opposed to shining your own light. That's just how corporate politics are. Now, that person, you have to shake them. All right, now you are $1 million Brinks truck showing up to an owner's house, like Andrew's house, saying, hey, I'm willing to give you this $1 million if your business is truly worth it. So you have to go from an employee mindset to a boss investor mindset. Now, the word boss has a lot of connotations. Give me some grace here. But you have to adopt it. Here's why. It's your $1 million. If you allow somebody to steal it from you, they will. There are no takebacks. There's no return line like at Walmart. You can't give the business back. You are at an information disadvantage. If I walk into Andrew's business, he could tell me about it all day. I would still be at an information disadvantage. And so the mindset is trust but verify, be convicted in what you know and you don't know, be willing to learn along the way, but never forget that you're $1 million Brinks truck. People have to respect you. And frankly, you have to respect yourself in a new way that you've never had to as an employee.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll use the phrase information asymmetry is something that is what you're alluding to here. And, we talk about data being more valuable than gold, right? That information is super valuable. And we live in a world where it feels like everything is super transparent, that we can know everything at all times. But business buying is one of the, just like a house, is still a very information asymmetric marketplace, and that information has real value. And I really appreciate that you're shining a light on that.
And I'm going to say it again because this is the one that I think hits people the hardest. If you're buying my business and I know I want to go retire to the Maldives, the easiest way for me to do that is to misrepresent the earnings and hope you're too scared, too poor, too fake smart to do your due diligence. That's the easiest way for me as a seller to get over on you as a buyer. So just think about that when you're making these decisions, because it really is, you trade your earnings at the table for a goose egg. And not only did you enable somebody else to go do something they really didn't earn, but I'll tell you, the other thing is you'll throw your family into a tailspin as you walk through a personal guarantee on $1 million, which likely means bankruptcy, which is a lot of pride that's going to be removed. So both the upside protection, but also downside protection, there's really two strong reasons to do your due diligence.
Yeah. Boy, Elliott, you're really adding a lot of value today. What have we not talked about that you want to ensure our listeners take away from this conversation?
Sure. So for 7 years running Guardian, I've only had solutions for people who were already at the precipice of buying a business. So they had sent Andrew, the seller, the letter, and that letter was accepted. And so they have a price that they've agreed upon in about 90 days to close the deal. I realized that there was 90% of my audience that might never get there. And so in October, I launched a class to help those 90% of people who are in my audience get to the place where they can transact, because it's a very tumultuous thing. I ended up having to work for free for several years to get the concepts, the tutelage to pull this stuff off. And I wanted to package it in a way that everyday people could consume it. So there's the audit kind of diligence where Andrew and I spend a lot of time, but let's say you're just starting. You're saying, hey, I think this is the year I'm going to 10X things and really put some time into buying a business. You should certainly take a look at the class that will just accelerate your process and allow you to work with somebody who's been in and out of this for 15 years.
Yeah. Don't let that pride stand in the way. Take down that guard and get educated, because that you called it that fake, that ego that gets in the way. Boy, and all the bad stuff that comes after your ego standing in the way of really learning and growing and making this is all about decision making, isn't it, Elliott?
Yes.
We're fundamentally we're talking about making more good decisions than bad, so that you can live a profitable life and a life that you want to lead. So,
and I'll double click on this. You'd never buy a house without a house inspector. That would be crazy. And my smartest business buyers, a lot of them are investment bankers, former private equity. They still get help through my programs. They're actually the ones that are most likely to get the most help. So the smartest people in this are getting the most help. So think about it. If you're a newbie, do you think you could potentially be smarter than the smartest? And even if you were, the smartest are getting the most help, but you're going to be smarter than the smartest by doing the least. Just think about that.
Yeah, let that swim around in there. So, Elliott, let's close out the show with some fun 3 lightning round questions. Question number 1, you just won $100 million lotto jackpot, but there's a stipulation that 50% of your net winnings go to one philanthropic organization. Who do you pick?
Boys and Girls Club of America.
Yeah. Excellent. I had no idea that Elliott was going to say that. I'm on the board of our local Boys and Girls Club here in La Crosse. That's why I did Isn't the Boys and Girls Club just fantastic, Elliott?
Fantastic. One of the best investments of time that I made. It enables people who got off to a rough start to get back on their feet, and allows people who have a lot of knowledge to share that in a familiar setting, not academic, but familiar. It's huge.
Yes. So to all our listeners, learn about your local Boys and Girls Club, and yes, make that investment. And here the word investment does apply, because you're investing in the lives and the well-being of the next generation. And there's really nothing more important that we have to invest in.
That's right.
So question number 2, I give you access to a time machine. You can send a message to an earlier version of Elliott Holland. What's the message, and what previous version of yourself do you send it to?
I send it to the guy who was taking a year off licking his wounds in 2017. and with the most energy that I probably can't give on this podcast without blowing a microphone or something. Keep going. Keep going.
Yep. It's a great message. Great message. Keep moving forward. Elliott, we're all works in progress. Last question. What are you working on right now in your personal journey of growth?
More healthy eating, weight control, meditation, mental health management to kind of circle out some of the business success. So carving out time to do things that are sort of maintenance things on Elliott that can make me a better professional for my clients, that typically aren't the first thing on your to-do list when you wake up in the morning, but might be the most important thing on your to-do list.
Yeah, because if, it took me far too long to recognize this, but if I'm not all put together in here, and I'm not focusing on me, I can't give the best of myself to everybody around me. So yeah, it may seem selfish in the moment, but no. Working on you is so important so that you can give the most to others.
That's right.
Yeah. So Elliott, where can folks get a hold of you?
So on LinkedIn, Elliott Holland, Twitter, the same thing, Elliott Holland, Guardian Due Diligence.com. And then a special thing for your listeners, if you go to offerfromelliott.com, you'll be invited to a bi-weekly screened office hours. We only do about 5 or 10 people in each thing, so we can really answer questions about getting deals done, due diligence, and the rest. So if you go over there, you can sign up for the next office hours and get to know the process a little bit better.
Fantastic. Elliott, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Andrew. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. So, my name is Andy Temte. This is the Balancing Act podcast. You can find us on all the major streaming services. Please like, subscribe, rate, and most importantly, share today's highly impactful conversation with your friends and your colleagues, especially those folks who are thinking about going the business ownership route. This was a really important conversation. The show was produced by Nicholas Temte, and we will see you next time on the Balancing Act.